All right. Hi, everyone. Looking at the chat, and we have Mark from the UK. We have people from Orlando, Iraq, all sorts of places. Thank you for joining us. Hello, I'm Jennifer Lee, Admin Evangelist at Salesforce, and welcome to Automate This. This series is live streamed every month, and you can watch it again on video on demand on the same live stream page. And for those joining us for the first time, let's set expectations. With Automate This, admins can hear how and be inspired by trailblazers who solve real-world business problems with automation. You can also learn about and talk about best practices and automation topics that are top of mind for admins. And the best part of it is you can ask questions live and interact with the audience as well as the presenters. And I have some great guest presenters lined up on the series to talk all things automation. And with the future retirement of workflow rules and processes, we will focus this first year on record-triggered flows to get you up and running. And additionally, we will have blog content on admin.salesforce.com the following day to accompany this content where we will deep dive into what you just saw. All right, so the best way to be notified when we live stream is to set a reminder on the live stream episode. You will then get our email reminder the day of the event, and we will also post upcoming sessions on all our various social channels. Now, to interact with the audience, post your comments, and to interact with me and my guest presenters, start your question with Q:, so I can easily scan through and identify your questions for the Q&A session. Now, in this episode, we're going to see how Steven Spencer uses the record-triggered flow to update related records. And to update related records, you need to find records using the get records flow element. And then once you have those records in hand, then we'll cycle through each record assembly line style using the loop flow element. So loops might be a new concept for some of you. So think of it as going through an assembly line. I like thinking about the I Love Lucy episode where she's working at the chocolate candy factory, and the chocolates go down the assembly line. So that allows me to think about flows. And every item that goes down this assembly line has the same actions that will be taken on it. So in the Salesforce world, if you have a group of records, you need to perform the same actions on them for every record in that grouping that goes through the loop. So each record, when it goes down the assembly line, will be placed in a loop record. And then once it's done with its turn, the next record is stored in a loop record, and then it goes through the assembly line. So we continue on until we're done with the last record in the collection, and therefore that ends the loop. So 3 key things you should know about loops. If you want to change a value in a record, use the assignment flow element. You don't need to make updates to the record within the loop because that's a no-no in the flow world as well as the development world. You want to add your loop record to another collection variable. And these are the records that you will action on after the loop is complete. And then lastly, you create, update, and delete records in a collection variable after your loop is done. All right, so today I'm joined by Steven Spencer, Salesforce Architect at Ticketmaster. Steven, please introduce yourself to the Automate This audience.
Well, hi, everyone. Like I said, my name is Steven Spencer. I'm a Salesforce Architect at Ticketmaster, as well as I work with a nonprofit Tech Forward and Tech Forward Solutions. And I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 11 years.
That's a long time. So,
Yeah.
so I'm always interested in hearing how people learn flow. So what was your flow journey like? How did you get started? What challenges did you run into and how did you overcome them?
So my flow journey started years ago, back when it wasn't as pretty as it is now.
Cloud Flow
I
Designer.
Yes, flow designer. Yeah. So I was working for a consulting company, and and a client had an issue that we were trying to solve with process builders, and we just weren't getting there. So they had this new tool called Flow Designer. I was like, well, let me try this. And at first it was really hard, but then like as we got into it, it's like, oh my god, this is an amazing tool. Why didn't they come out with this first? But then it was just trying to use that tool as much as I can to kind of improve my skills in it.
Great. So, for people who want to learn flow, what advice do you have that you can offer them?
So I always tell people when they say, oh, I want to learn flows, I tell them go out there and make mistakes. Like that is like don't let the fear of trying something new, trying something that you don't know stop you from doing it. Go out there and make mistakes as long as you're doing it in a sandbox.
Never production.
Yes.
That's awesome. So, flows, as you mentioned, can do a lot of things. So, it can update the record that triggered the process, but also update related records. And I understand your solution takes that into account. So, why don't you share with us your business use case and the solution?
Sure. So basically, our customer support reps, they when they go in and they update the account record, they also needed to update our related opportunity records a certain value. There could be one related opportunity, or there could be many, but they were spending a lot of time doing this. So when we sat down with the business, we wanted to come up with a solution that would actually do this automatically and save them a lot of time. So that's how we came up with this with this solution where when they updated one field on the account record, it will then search for any open opportunities and update a certain field on those records. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can walk you through it. So we all started the flow. It all starts here, where we go in and we define the criteria. So we say that this flow is going to be it will only run when a record is created or updated, and it has to meet this custom logic. So with this with the custom logic, you can either say I want this to happen every anytime anything below this happens, or I want this to happen anytime any of the values below equals true. So because I needed something more custom, I chose custom logic. So I only wanted this flow to run when the segment is changed, or when the segment equals Canada and the organization type is changed. And from there, I connected to get my um my get records element, which the only thing that does, it goes in and it grabs the opportunity records that are that reach this criteria, such as when the account ID on the opportunity equals the when the account ID on the account equals the account ID that is on our opportunity record, which is signified by this record account ID, and its close equals false. From there, we connect it to our decision element, which is just made up of these categories of arts, festivals, and clubs, sports and indoor. And basically, all it says is that if our current account record segment equals arts and theaters, we want to create a branch for arts, if if our current account segment equals college athletics, or if that equals NFL or stadiums and outdoor, we want to create a sports and outdoor branch. And basically, all that does is it gives us a line that we can drag from this decision element to a group of elements on our desktop. So we'll start with the arts one. So basically, so basically, this is a loop element, and it takes the values that we got from our get opportunities element, and then it runs through them. So we want to do for each item, we want to assign a value to the field on the opportunity, which is the division field, and this is the loop through arts is basically is just the it's just this loop element, and then once we've assigned a value, we want to assign we want to assign that record back to a a collection variable. And a collection variable, what that is it's a variable that allows you to hold multiple records in one variable. And in order to create that, what I did was I went to new resource, I went to variable, I gave it a name. So this was op collection var. Let's do two since there's already one there. Then I chose the data type, and because I want to hold records, I selected record. And by selecting this right here, allow multiple values collection, this allows me to hold multiple records. I then I then chose the object that I wanted I wanted my records to hold, which was opportunities. Scroll down and selected it, and I clicked done. And this looks like a lot, but it's really not. So what I did what I did was I created the first one, and then I used this lasso right here, and I was able to select these three elements, and then I used the copy the duplicate button at the top, and that allowed me to do this multiple times. And basically, only thing that I had to do was go in and rename rename the actual element. So I would change that from flow to art, from arts to another one. We'll name this one test, and then I would change the value that I was assigning to that record in order to do my new element, and then I would save it, and then I would put it in here, and then just drag my decision to that new loop, and and I was done. So I was able to create multiple multiple components in a relatively short amount of time. So once once this loop has cycled through each item in the loop, it then after the last item, it then went to this update element where it updated all the items that were in the collection variable. Um, and that was really my solution. Back to you, Jen.
Great. Well, thank you, Stephen, for sharing your solution with us. And I'm sure there are several questions in the queue. So, just a reminder to folks, please start your questions with a Q colon. So it's easier for me to identify those from the audience just chatting amongst yourselves. So I'm going to go take a couple minutes to look through the questions, and then we'll get to the Q&A. All right. Okay, let's see. Here's our first question. Move it over here from Mark Jones. I can see it's a decent sized flow. Would you ever consider using subflows to break the overall flow into smaller segments?
So it's funny because we were just talking about subflows, but for this one, I really would because it looks like it's a decent sized flow, but it's really just one, two, three, four, five. It's really just two independent ones, and then three elements that are repeated multiple times. So I wouldn't break this one up into a smaller segment. But let's say that if I had multiple flows that were being triggered off of the account object, maybe then I would go in and create one flow on the account object that launches when a record is created or updated, and then it might then launch this subflow.
Great. All right. Thanks, Mark, for that question. All right. Pull in the next question from Guitar Dude. Um, when you use a variable for an object, is it always a must to update the records for that variable only? Would you ever update the actual object?
So when you use a variable for an object, is it a must to update the records for that variable only? So you know what? I don't I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can't update you can't update variables from different objects within the same element. So I guess that would be a no. And really when I personally, when I'm doing an update, what I try to do is I try to do an assignment where I assign those variables to I assign I assign values to the variable, and then in my actual update, I'm just updating that whole record. But that's just me personally. There is you can do an update where you grab you grab the individual items in that record and then update them, or you update records based upon criteria you've defined inside of that update element.
Great. All right. Let's grab our next question from Akshay. Object 1 has a pickless field. Object 1 has a pickless field is subject object oh field is subject. Object 2 has a pickless field area of interest. If object 1 created and subject matches with object 2 field, then send an email to all records. I'm not sure what the question is here.
Yeah, object one has a pick list. Subject two has a pick list field as subject. Object two has a pick list field area of field area of interest. Object one created in subject matches with object two, then send email to all related records of object two. Um, I don't. I'm not really sure what the question
Mm-hmm.
is, but I'm saying if you're saying that if you have object one and you want to update the you want to update I'm if you want to update the object two that matches the criteria, then yes. Or and also I'm just shooting in the dark, but if you're saying that you want to update related records of object two, then yeah, you can jump that far down because you can do a get you can do multiple gets within your flow. So if you let's say you have your account object, and then your object two is opportunities. You can get opportunities. You can get the opportunity that is related to the account, and then you can do another get of that opportunity you can do another get from that opportunity. So for records that are related to that, and then update those records or send an email out to those records. So I hope I answered your question. I'm not really sure. I hope I didn't send you down the wrong path also. So yeah.
Well, if we didn't answer your question, Akshay, if you could elaborate more in the chat and then we'll loop back to you. Okay, next question from Entertainment Engine. We have a situation where we want to prevent related cases, opportunities, tasks, and basically everything related to restricted accounts, which we have only opened up to only a few users. What can we do?
We must prevent really. I think this is more of a security question, but
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
sure
yeah,
how it's related to automation.
yeah, this is more of a security question. But yeah, if you want to look at, if you want to look into the record types of it, that might help, as well as doing profile level access. Well, actually, because you it's certain records, so yeah, it probably be record types. But
All right. And next one is from Pete. What's the largest advisable number of records to update in a single loop?
now, if I don't know, if you had asked me, if you had asked me 2 years ago, I could have gave you the exact number because I've broken flows trying to put too much data through it on multiple occasions, but I haven't done it recently. I know like the I know 2 years ago it wasn't the it's not based upon the number of records. It's based upon the number of iterations within the individual loop. So it was like if you have one record going in the loop, and but you have three elements in that loop, you want to multiply the number of records by the number of elements in there to get that the actual number. But I believe that number has been raised from 2000, but I'm not sure.
All right, so you might need to do some Googling, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, and then our next question is from B. Scott. If combining several workflow rules processes into one flow, is there anything such as volume, limit, performance concerns, e.g., case object? I would have one flow for all create edits instead of different workflow rules processes.
If you want to take that, Jen, like I
Um, so it it depends on like how many workflow rules and processes you have, and how how big of this flow that you're trying to create. Um, so there's the whole debate in the community whether you do one flow per object, like one create, update, and delete, or you do individual record triggered flows. And the Salesforce stance is it depends. It really depends on your situation, your specific use case. If you have a relatively small business, it might make sense to have it be one flow that has subflows in it. If you came from a big organization like I did previously and we had multiple business units, then we sectioned it off by the different business units and did a a flow for each business unit. Um, if it's not as important to have it all in one massive flow where you're handling subflows and all that, then we do provide the ability to have the individual flows. And you can control the order of execution of those record trigger flows using the trigger order. So it really depends on how you want to manage your flows. If you want them all combined in this one big massive flow, but know that if you don't use subflows, then when you make enhancements to that big massive flow, guess what? You're testing all of the things right in that flow to make sure you didn't break anything. Whereas if you chunk them off into subflows, then that's a little bit more manageable, or you break them into their own individual flows. But as you're making that transition of workflows and processes, I do recommend that you go through for that given object and review all the workflow rules and the processes, ensure that they're still relevant. Because I came from an org that was 5 years old, and we had workflow rules that were kicking around. And when I went through the process of moving them to flow, because I was tired of seeing workflow rules in my org and processes, I found out that some of those workflow rules, the business didn't even know existed, right? Eventually, like maybe one point in time they were relevant, but the business changes, business users change, right? So just make sure they're actually relevant before you even take the step to migrate them over. And where you can, you could come up with a better design than what you had previously with your workflow rules and processes. So I hope that helps, B. Scott. And let me see if there's any other questions in the audience. Reminder, if you do have questions, start them with a Q colon so I could easily find them. So as I'm scanning, I see a couple of people made some comments. Carmel, look at all those loops and assignments, hashtag Flownatic. Tasha, lasso plus duplicate, didn't even know you could do this, hashtag Flownatic, love it. Carmel, love that advice, Jen, agreed that taking time to review old automations is crucial before moving forward with migrating to flows. All right. I see. Anyone else have any questions? Tasha says, that's great feedback. Don't do a lift and shift. Evaluate all of your automations. Yep, for sure. All right. I am not seeing any more questions. Great. All right, so let's do a recap of the 3 things to know about loops. So if you want to change a value in a record, use the assignment flow element. Add a loop record to another collection variable, and these are the records that you will action on after the loop is complete. Do not do actions within the loop. You'll come up and hit DML limits in your flow. And lastly, create, update, and delete those records in a collection variable after the loop is done. We cannot stress that enough. All right, and here's your call to action. So now it's your turn. Engage with others in the Salesforce Automation Trailblazer community as you're building flows, building your automation to update records with loops. And if you run into problems, go to the Trailblazer community, Salesforce Automation, and post for help. There's always so many people in the HANA willing to jump in and help you out. And that's also the community that the Salesforce automation product team is also in. So they're reviewing and checking things out there. Also visit our automation resource page at admin.salesforce.com. We have lots of resources on automation, so go there, check that out. And lastly, go to Trailhead to get hands-on with the record triggered flow module. All right, so thank you, Stephen, for joining us on today's Automate This.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, so tell me what you think. Complete the quick survey and let me know what you liked and what you want to see more of. Excuse me. So next month, you're in for a treat. We have 2 live episodes in the month of August planned. On August 10th, we will have a panel discussion on a topic that is very top of mind for admins, and it's about record triggered flow design patterns. We'll have an amazing panel with the Flow PM Diana Jaffe and 3 Flownatic trailblazers. So that's Carmel James, who's on this
Yeah.
automate this right now, Nahender Singh, and Tom Hoffman. And they'll share their preferred design pattern. And later in the month, on August 24th, we'll have 4 Flownatic trailblazers showcasing flow features that you can use in a record triggered flow. Now, I know many of you are here for this, and we're running a sweepstakes on this Automate This episode. So enter now until August 10th, and you'll get a chance to win this Flownatic Tech Pouch. So complete the form that you see on the screen, sforce.co/automate this sweeps, and put in the secret code AUTOMAGIC. And the form will have a link to our official rules for this contest. It's at sforce.co/flow sweeps. So I'm just going to leave this up for a couple of more seconds. Again, the secret code to put into the form is AUTOMAGIC. All right. So thank you all for joining us on Automate This Live. I hope you enjoyed the content. Stephen and I, had a great time, and thank you for engaging us. And remember, the best way to be notified when we live stream is to set the reminder on the live stream episode. And you'll get the email reminder on the day of the event so you don't forget. And we'll also post upcoming sessions to on our various social channels. So follow us on Twitter at Salesforce Admins, LinkedIn, and the Trailblazer community. And I'll see you next month for our panel session on record triggered flow design patterns. Thank you.